From the National Newsroom of the Canadian Press, I'm Rob Westgate. Large crowds of protesters marched in rallies in cities across the U.S. Saturday in support of an event called No King's Day. The demonstration saw participants decry what they say is the U.S. government's swift drift into authoritarianism under Donald Trump. Higher-profile attendees included Bill Nye the Science Guy, who says he's been protesting since the Vietnam War and did not hesitate to participate in this one.
We want them to stand up to this guy and his sycophants, the frankly thoughtless people he surrounded himself with.
Nye says he believes the difference between Saturday's situation and the Vietnam War protests is that the threat is not a foreign enemy. Meanwhile, some Canadians got in on the protest action as well. In Montreal, a rally was organized by the Quebec chapter of Democrats Abroad, which represents U.S. citizens living outside the country. Dual citizen Judith Henkowick was on hand, saying it's important to stand up against Trump's suggestion that Canada should become the 51st state.
We're here to support Canadian sovereignty.
Henkowick, who's been a Montrealer for over 50 years, says the rally is also to support all Americans interested in keeping their democracy. Meanwhile, the Trump administration marked the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Marine Corps with a visit from a man who once wore that same uniform, Vice President J.D. Vance. Now, Vance spoke at Camp Pendleton Saturday, addressing the thousands at the West Coast training facility, at times adding political commentary and taking jabs at Democrats during the government shutdown.
Now, I know we're here to talk about the Marine Corps, but I got to get just a little political because congressional Democrats seem to want to keep the government shut down, even though it would mean that a lot of you would not get your paycheck.
Vance also added a quip about the administration's continued deadly strikes on suspected drug boats in the Caribbean and the rollback of diversity and inclusion in the military. Now back home, where the Manitoba government is taking longer to respond to Freedom of Information requests. That's according to the findings of a new annual report on the issue. It says 55% of requests were responded to within the law's guidelines, 45 days in most cases. That's down from 69% the previous year and 70% the year before that. Now, the report also says that Manitoba is raking in more money from people seeking information. And a couple of quick updates here. Officials with the RCMP say allegations of Chinese foreign interference and money laundering linked to a pair of PEI Buddhist groups will be reviewed. They say that's being done in light of new information and allegations. And from overseas, breaking news, France's culture minister is reporting a robbery at the Louvre. This is the Canadian Press. In sports, starting off in the NHL, where the Toronto Maple Leafs were on the wrong side of a 4-3 final against the Seattle Kraken. Now on the plus side, John Tavares had 2 goals, giving him 500 career points with the Leafs. Elsewhere, Mark Scheifele reached a historic milestone, tallying the 813th point of his career, moving him past Blake Wheeler in a 4-1 Winnipeg Jets victory over the Nashville Predators. The New York Rangers defeated the Montreal Canadiens 4-3. The Vegas Golden Knights snagged an easy 6-1 victory from the Calgary Flames. The Islanders edged the Sens 5-4, and the Devils got by the Oilers 5-3. In the CFL, Vernon Adams Jr. threw 3 touchdown passes in the first half of the Calgary Stampeders' 43-13 victory over the Toronto Argonauts, while the Alouettes downed the Red Blacks 39-28. And finally, in Major League Soccer action, Dallas beat Vancouver 2-1. Montreal was blanked by Cincinnati 3-0, and Toronto doubled up on Orlando 4-2. From the Canadian Press, I'm Rob Westgate.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to follow and subscribe. For more of today's top stories, visit thecanadianpressnews.ca.